I don't have to stand, do I?
No.
Okay, good. I'm just kind of going to go through the calendar, give you more of a anthropological perspective. You probably, I could probably go on about labor law for an hour, but I don't know if that really applies to. So we got up there on Sunday night. Kind of got there at the end of registration. The afternoons are filled with elected courses. Anyway, by the way, this is the Grace Carroll Rocky Mountain Labor School. It wasn't necessarily a conference. There used to be a AFL-CIO sponsored labor school in every region of the States. And this is the last one that in existence. They've managed to keep it going. All the instructors, all the lawyers that show up and do the classes, they all do it for free. I mean, they get their food and board, but that's it. So a lot of very dedicated old guys trying to help out the AFL, which was really nice. So we get there. I registered myself for community building and communications and social networking because they were some of the only classes left, and I needed the other two that were left. We have a dinner that night. The first thing they tell everybody is, well, they give everyone a phone number. You can call the president of the AFL-CIO in Cheyenne. He will pick you up if you get arrested or a DUI, which apparently happens quite a bit, but it didn't happen this week. So. And in Laramie, if you blow double the limit, it's mandatory a week in jail.
Wow.
So they stressed that. Most of the bars were within walking distance, so it was fine. Lots of drinking. For most of these guys, they worked 40 to 80 hours a week, and it was a vacation on top of their school.
Was the conference held in Laramie?
Yes, it moves from state to state every year, and next year it's Salt Lake, actually, which will be nice. Lots of drinking. And every day you start out, everyone goes to breakfast. This is all in a hotel in the Lincoln Convention Center. You get to meet lots of other people. The first night they just actually did an exercise where there was 10 statements, and you either disagree or agree with the statement. And then you have to get with a partner, and you have to come to a consensus on all the issues. You have to either sway them or be swayed. And then you go from 2 people to 4 people to 8 people, and once you get past 4 people, it's really fucking tough. So that was a good lesson. Every day starts with labor history, which actually starts with a song. They did the Wobbly Doxology, which is a version on the Protestant doxology. It was, I'll give you the lyrics, I'm not going to sing it.
Oh, come on.
So, praise boss when work bells chime. Praise boss for bits of overtime. Praise boss whose wars we love to fight. Praise boss, fat leech, and parasite. Amen. The Wobblies in Australia would start every meeting with that song. That's how we started every day. The classes are all 2 hours long, which is tough. The labor history teacher, anytime people start nodding off, you make it stand up and sing another song, which was pretty cool. The labor history, this is labor history 1, this is a 2-year school. We started in England with the guilds and got up to the sit-down strike. So I guess, I didn't think there was that much history after that. But that will be next year. It was heavy on the Wobblies, you could tell he was a fan. Lots of Mother Jones. Emma Goldman was in there. Jack Reed. Has anyone heard about the pageant he did in New York?
No.
Yeah, apparently nobody has. But the Wobblies were organizing a textile mill somewhere on the East Coast, and Jack Reed was with the Wobblies at the time. He thought, well, we'll just do a big pageant in New York while they're doing a strike and get sympathy for them. And so they put on this huge show in Madison Square Garden. The line to get in was 16 blocks. They built a factory. They did forgot this song. Anyway, they did a big pageant about how terrible it is to work in the factory. It was a big socialist hoo-rah-rah. They sang the International at the end. It was a huge success, and the Wobblies lost their ass on it. So it didn't help the strike, and they lost. But anyway, that was a big to-do. Lots of Joe Hill, lots of Rocky Mountain history, lots of minor strikes, which were actually very violent and pretty gruesome and not that long ago, up into the 19-teens. That was labor history. Second class of the day before lunch was labor law. We learned about unfair business practices, what kinds of things are actually grievable. This more applies to once you have a contract, and organizing. Once you are organizing, you can prove it. The best way to do that is sending a letter. Val Bigman told us the same thing. But if you are organizing, send the boss a letter. Say these people are organizing. And then it's pretty hard to fire you while you continue to organize. Also, an unfair labor practice I didn't realize was to offer a union a contract that no self-respecting union would take. Although the lawyer said in the last 20 years, he's seen unions take contracts that he didn't think any self-respecting union would take. So it's kind of wherever the bar's at, the bar's pretty low right now. And lawyer was great. He gave us case examples every day. We all had to argue whether we thought it was an unfair labor practice or not, and why. Very interactive, very cool guy. I go to lunch, then I go to community building. Well, first day, electives didn't start till the second day. First day, we had an executive from the National AFL, CAL, Kim. She did a lecture, very interactive. She asked everyone what she thought was wrong with the economy. Wrote it all up on the board. So that's all the way from militarism. I suggested that the economy itself is the problem. But, or type of economy, that is. Someone tried to say immigrants were wrong with the economy. She shut them down pretty quick. Half the room applauded. She was all right. They're still hopeless with the Democrats, but they were okay. And then I took another class, staying out of trouble with the DOL, and that's basically just how to keep your money straight at your local, where you can lose it all really fast. And I can personally testify to that at our own local. Then, okay, so the next day I took the community organizing. Not what I thought it was. It should have been called Duties of the CLC and the State Federation, the AFL State Fed. And basically the CLC, they are supposed to organize in their community, but their main focus is code, political, education. Anyway, what they do is they look for possibly labor-friendly candidates that they can support. That's about it. The State Fed are the ones up on the hill, killing more bills than they get through, but this is Utah. They kill 100 bills for every one they get through. And there's lots of bills they don't kill, obviously. That was the first 2 days of the class, what those things do. And so the AFL's up there lobbying, so they decided they would make us lobbyists. They split the room into one group had to lobby for elimination of collective bargaining, and the other had to argue against it. I got in the group that had to argue for it. And also, so that was the second to last day. So between that class and the next day, when you get to present your thing at the hearing, they do a hearing, a mock hearing. The old AFL guys play the senators. You have to catch them in the halls individually and try and get their commitment on a yes or no vote. I guess that's how lobbying works. And it really sucks.
Just some money change.
I would never want to be a lobbyist. But anyway, so we were the taxpayers for economic freedom, in support of the budget repair bill. You want to hear our presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. All right. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, our great state is in the middle of a multi-million-dollar budget deficit. Housing is in a slump, and unemployment is at over 10%. We face some large hurdles, not the least of them collective bargaining rights of public employees. Public employee union members enjoy rights and benefits the average working person does not. Large paid-for pensions, paid health care, paid holidays, paid sick days, paid personal days, among others. All these add up to a large amount of money from state coffers, adding to the deficit. This bill proposes to end that. Those covered by collective bargaining have a 30% advantage in wages, a 63% advantage in health care, a 386% advantage in pensions, a 77% advantage in short-term disability benefits, and a 28% advantage in paid vacation days. The source of the U.S. Department of Labor. As taxpayers, we see this redistribution of wealth by the state among those covered by collective bargaining as un-American. We feel this is fiscally unhealthy approach towards socialism. These people work for us, the taxpayers, yet they are much better off than most of us are. This is unfair. By eliminating collective bargaining, we will effectively level the playing field. In this way, public service employees will share in the balancing of the state's budget. This will help spare the public from further tax increases. If this burden was to be placed on the backs of business and corporations in the form of higher taxes, they would not be able to maintain, much less increase, employment and economic growth in our fair state. In these hard times, our state taxpayers cannot afford these outrageous costs. Anyway, in closing, I know you honorable people will do the right thing and not be swayed by fear of public backlash and the strong possibility you will be voted out of office. So that was our pitch, and we had to catch the senators in the hallway. There was Senator Flip Flop, Breeder Rotten, Senator Greed. So the other group, like they've had hookers sent to their room before, and they get coupons for massages and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, you're not supposed to bribe, but everybody does. While we were giving the presentation, the senators are all very snotty and talking to each other, just like they are. They don't even pay attention to you. They ended up one of the senators ended up killing it with an amendment, and that's how things often happen. And it had nothing to do with either lobby group. Lesson learned. So, yes.
So, this was AFL-CIO presented.
Yes.
And they guided it and they structured it.
Mm-hmm.
And their entire lesson was you can't do anything through lobbying, essentially.
Not true.
Well, but
yeah.
It seems like there's two things functioning. Like there's something functioning on the ideological level, which is we have to vote for the Democrats because they're the best we're going to get. But when it came down to the concrete organizing strategy, it sounds like they're almost recognizing the truth.
Almost. I mean, they do have some successes. Things would be worse if they weren't up there.
Do you notice any tension between that? Did you see any tension, or like between the discussion of the support of the Democrats and between like the actual mechanisms?
There are people talking about third parties. This was Wyoming. Wyoming was heavily represented. It's also the Rocky Mountains. So these are very redneck guys. A lot of them. There's lots of Harley Davidsons, lots of camouflage, lots of. A good chunk, almost half of them were probably IBEW electricians. Fairly redneck miners, very redneck, but nice guys. They're not happy with Obama. They're not happy with Bush. They're not.
So Josh, if their conclusion was that lobbying was that you had to bribe them and you had to do all of these things, did they still feel that they got anything, even though the amendment was, killed?
The bill was killed. One of the senators wanted to just say, well, how about we just freeze it, and then we'll give them collective bargaining back next year. And that wasn't good enough for the collective bargaining folks, so the bill was stuck. And Senator Flip-Flop walked out right before the vote, because that also happens too. They don't want to.
So they were still going to.
They don't want to get caught voting for something that some of their constituents might be mad about, so they just don't vote. You just walked out of there. Anyway, that was very depressing. So that wasn't a fun class at all.
Was it depressing, or did it encourage you towards revolutionary action?
Yes. After that, I took communication, social networking. They went over to Facebook, Twitter. Google Plus is going to be the next big thing next year, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. They also went over to, we did film editing, which was kind of weird, if you wanted. put something on YouTube, labor rally, whatever. That's ways to do it. No-nos.
What were
Going
the
over writing a
no-nos?
press release. What was that?
What were the no-nos?
That's the grandma's commentary. This is Donnie. This is Linda. They talked about headshots, and you could make sure you always get some applause. You can just edit it in later, whatever. It doesn't. Just simple stuff. And how to write a press release. Everyone had to write a press release. They agreed to. And that was the school, and we had graduation, and. At the graduation dinner, this really creepy thing happened where I think it was a postal worker, but obviously a vet got up there, had all the vets stand up in the room, and the parents of the vets made some speech about without these people, we wouldn't have the worker rights we have. The one other communist I met there, some old psychology professor, was just looking at me in disgust. They came over and said, "How come they're not asking the peace activists to stand up?" And then they did a big USA chant, which was really scary. And then we had dinner and everyone got drunk, and it was fun. And that's it. Any questions?
Do you have the sheet that you did the exercise on for forming consensus?
No.
Do you have it in Utah?
I can get one. I wonder if it's in here.
I'd like to look at that.
Yeah.
Did you get all that material?
Yes.
There?
Yeah, I should have.
Wow.
If anyone, this is all the classes. There was 8 electives. So, and there's only room to take 2. Everyone has to do labor history and labor law. And also, it's all right here if anyone wants it.
It would be completely illegal to post this online because it's copyright. So it certainly wouldn't be posted online by me or anyone else in RSU. I could never do anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
But I did have the scariest most redneck guys asking me about socialism. So.
How did those conversations go?
They're very polite, and they don't. All right. So they don't comment that much.
They really wanted to know, or they wanted to know?
Yeah. Well, and they get a little bit of that in their history. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the
Wobbly.
Eugene Debs and the Wobblies are very Marxist, and the same communist, the older guy, gave the history teacher some shit. He thought he was red baiting a little. I didn't really see it that way, but the teacher said that the AFL has actually come down on him in the past for talking too much about socialism and communism. So he keeps the politics mostly taken out of the labor history. He sneaks in what he can, it seems like, but that was that. Anyone else?
Oh, did you get the professor's name? Maybe we could invite him to Salt Lake and speak to the RSU.
I did. I have his name at home. He's planning on coming to Salt Lake next year.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we could just get him while here.
Yeah.
So. And they're also talking about when the Grace Carroll Labor School is here next year, about they always do a picnic night somewhere. We went up the mountain. Laramie's at like 7,000 feet. We went up to 10,000 feet and had some kegs and food. And I got eaten by mosquitoes. Anyway, in Salt Lake, they plan on doing it at Sugar House Park. The FLCIO is also working about getting a monument for Joe Hill in the park.
Oh, wow.
So,
Nice.
Great.
it would be cool if we could do if it coordinated at the same time, we'd have a big rally.
It was supposed to be moved about 10 years ago, you know that?
Yeah, I mean, well, it'd have to be in the park, not where the prison was, right?
Yeah.
Which is a parking lot now.
How many days were you there?
Full week. Got there Sunday night and left Saturday morning. So it's a lot of stuff. And I'm not used to sitting down all day at all. It was hard.
Sounds cool.
Thanks.
That was good. I plan on going next year.
Thank you, Josh.
Yes.
That was great.
Do you know if other people who aren't necessarily invited can come? Like what dues look like for that or anything like that?
It was $600. I got a scholarship from the CLC that my wife created. And most officers get reimbursed. A lot of those guys are getting a full week's pay. We were. IATSE is pretty poor local. Lots of other IATSE guys there, especially Vegas. Put things in perspective. I think our local brings in about $2.5 million a year. Their local brings in $72 million. So
Well, they've got other shows in Las Vegas.
they've got all the casinos, all the conventions. But they're also competing with teamsters at IBEW for the same work. We don't have that problem here.
For conventions.
Yeah, we just compete with each other. So, yeah.
So they have to lobby a lot.
Yeah, and that's the guy from New Mexico. That's Irish guy. Pretty cool. Their business agent down there. Actually worked for the local for 7 years for free. He was a lawyer. Just decided he wanted to help out labor. He brought the Santa Fe Film Local membership from 100 to 1,200 in less than a decade. Got huge tax incentives passed for film in New Mexico. They're building big studios there.
So, I mean, this was an interesting discussion, kind of like description of what happened. Concretely, now that you're back, what are some things that you think are actionable that you want to start putting into practice or building towards or developing here that you found were interesting there or that we've talked about?
I don't know. I think the AFL's CIO is probably pretty useless for revolution. I think there's a lot of sympathetic rank and file, and and these weren't rank and file for the most part. These are guys that actually get involved in a lot of officers at the school. Although there were some just rank and file. Some unions send their apprentices to the school. But
What is the name of the school again?
Grace Carroll,
Okay.
Rocky Mountain Labor School. Cryptic website, won't get much there. You can see what last year's classes were. They also were talking about adding a third year. Everyone got to make suggestions for classes. I suggested labor as an anti-war movement, political theory, that's fascism, capitalism, socialism, yada yada. Because I don't know how you can talk about worker struggle without theory.
Yeah.
And what else did I suggest? Must have been not that very good. Anyway, the communists had similar proposals. He wanted a socialism for Americans as a class.
There you go.
Got passed.
Oh, and I also wanted them to add, they didn't have any external organizing classes. They had internal organizing. These were the other classes. Internal organizing, steward training, grievance and arbitration, collective bargaining 1, labor leadership, collective bargaining 2. So, those are the other options. What you were asking?
Oh, that socialism in America, that they decided to do that?
Oh, we'll see. Everyone just gets to put in their suggestions at the end. You have to rate the classes you took, say what you liked and why, and what you didn't like.
Who determines what classes there are?
The staff. So, they seems pretty self-run. I don't know how much the national even has to do with it anymore, really. It's just a conglomeration of states. It's everybody but the coast. So it's not California, Oregon, or Washington.
Do you know how many people attended the conference?
So that's 200, just shy of 200. So,
All over the states?
from the entire Rocky Mountain area, from Montana,
They live in-
Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada.
So would you encourage people to go to this if they get a chance, or
Yeah.
is it sort of like a waste of time, or is it?
It's, if you want just better perspective on how things are, well, the history's awesome. If you want a perspective on labor law, it's kind of, it changes over time just by opinions, actually, by the labor board. And it also depends on who the National Labor Relations Board is. When a Republican's in charge, nobody tries to go through the labor board. Right now, it's a pretty friendly labor board. So Democrats are actually, at least to the letter of the law, more friendly with labor. They're not proposing any better laws, but.
All right, well, let's give him a hand.